Okay, so yesterday we did ratio tables, okay? Some of you, this was a little bit confusing, just having to find a number to jump back and forth. So I'm hoping what I'm about to show you will make that a little bit easier. Last week when we did rates and unit rates and all that good stuff, what were we finding when we divided the top number by the bottom number? Do you remember? The unit rate, exactly, because we're looking for the rate for one thing. All right, so with a ratio table, we're actually using sometimes the unit rate to bounce back and forth between two different equivalent, very good, ratios. So, whoever said equivalent, yes, there you go. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you an easier way to use the unit rate to find a missing value, okay? So, looking at this first example, it says, out of 30 students surveyed, 17 have a dog. So, what's my key word that's going to help me figure out what I'm comparing there? Out of, you got it. So, out of 30, all right, so what would my ratio be? 17 to 30. You got it. You can say it, absolutely. It's not 30 to 17, it's 17 to 30 because it's out of 30. So we're going to set this up like 17 over 30, okay? And this would be, we'll say 17 have dogs, and that's out of 30 total students. All right? Now, yesterday when we did our ratio table, I'm going to come over here to the side, and we're just going to kind of review what we did. So we would have 17 to 30, but this time I want to go and see how many that would be out of 300. So what do I do to go from 30 to 300? Times 10. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top, which would give me, okay, so that tells me out of 300 students, 170 would have a dog. All right? Now, let's think about doing this same thing, but this time we're going to use the unit rate. What did you guys tell me earlier? How do we find a unit rate? We divide, okay? So we have, well, first of all, let me say, we're going to take this number. We're looking for 300, okay? So we're going to take our numerator, or our top number, divide it by the denominator, because that's what that shows, 17 out of 30, okay? And then I'm going to multiply that by 300. Let's see what happens. Now, if you put this in your calculator, 17 divided by 30, get a really long number, repeating decimal. Okay? If you're hitting equal, do not clear your calculator, because your calculator recognizes that this is a repeating decimal and it needs all those digits in there to make the equation work. This is my unit rate. Now, we all know I can't have half of a dog, right? But it means on average that for every 2 students, there's 1 dog. So for every person or every student, it's a half a dog. Is 17 about half of 30? Almost, okay? But we're going to take this unit rate and we're then going to multiply it by the new number that we need. And see, by not hitting clear, it kept my answer in there. There you go. So we get the same answer. You can even type it in all at one time. 17 divided by 30 times 300. You don't have to hit equals. So our new answer is not just 170, it's 170 have dogs out of 300 students. Yes. It told me. Right here.
So, like, when we're doing these problems, like, it says 156, we multiply.
Well, we'll get to that one in a second. Yeah, it's just a different way. You see, we got the same answer that we did with our ratio table. We got the 170. And, guys, what we're looking for is an equivalent ratio with a new denominator. Now, what happens if I put 170 over 300 in as a fraction and simplify it? I go right back to my original ratio. So these are equivalent. We just need to know which one with the denominator of 300. Okay? Let's try another one. This time we're not going to worry about looking at the chart. We just want to find out using the unit rate. So right here, what's going to tell me how to set up my ratio?
170
1 out of 12. Here is my ratio right there, 1 out of 12. So 1 out of every 12, and that will be, let's see, this 1 shares a locker. And 12 would be my students. So 1 student shares a locker out of every 12 students. And what's my new denominator I'm looking for? 456. Make sure, guys, look, this is students. That's got to be lined up. That'll also kind of help you on which number to put as your top or bottom on your ratio, is to know this is on the bottom and I've got to match it up with the information that I have. So we're going to type in 1 divided by 12 times 456. The 1 divided by 12 is going to give me my unit rate. There you go. So that would tell you 38 out of 456 students share lockers. Exactly. And if I take this answer, let's do that. 38 over 456. It's back to 112. Yep. Absolutely. That'd be a great way to check your work. Simplify your answer and make sure you go back to your original ratio. Okay? Is this a lot easier?
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand. Do you have to write 1 divided by 12 times 456?
No, you don't. I'm just doing this so you know exactly what to set up. Yeah. Good. Yeah, no, that's a great question. You don't have to write this out. I'm just doing that so that if you guys go back and you're like, no, great, what did I do? This is so you'll know what's in your calculator. Okay, let's look at the third one. We've got 84 cookies. Okay, and that is for 28 students. Now, do I want to know how many students there are per cookie? No, I want to know how many cookies per student. So that'll also help you line up your ratio. And we want to know how many we would need for 30 students. Okay? So again, finding our unit rate by dividing 84 divided by 28 times 30. Hey, what is your, just out of curiosity, what's your unit rate on this one? Not your new answer. What's your unit rate? Do 84 divided by 28. What? 3. That means your unit rate would be 3 cookies per student. So once you have that 3, multiply by 30. 90. So that means we have 90 cookies for 30 students. Yep, each person gets 3, so that would be your unit rate. And this way you don't have to worry about the middleman, like we were worried about on the chart. Do what? Okay, here we go. Alright, a survey reported that out of 50 teenagers, 9 said they get their news from a newspaper. Uh-oh. How am I writing my ratio? Very good. Why do you think that?
Because there's 300 teenagers on the bottom.
Okay, there we go. So we're looking right here, teenagers, and it says out of, okay? So we want to make sure we have 9 out of 50. These 9 get their news from a newspaper, and 50 was the number of teenagers, okay? And we want to go to how many teenagers? 300, okay? So again, 9 divided by 50 times 300. What'd you get? 54. Now, let me ask you this, too. Thinking back to our charts we did yesterday, how did you go from 50 to 300?
Multiply by 6.
Can you do the same thing up top?
Yes.
There's your new fraction. So 54 out of 300, and this would be teenagers, and this would be, I'm just going to say newspaper, because this means the number that get their news from the newspaper. Okay? And again, if we wanted to go and try to simplify that, you'd end up right back at 9 over 50. Okay, so your practice for tonight, look at the bottom of your page, it's 183. All you're having to do is numbers 5 through 13. It's only 9 problems. make sure, hang on, let me turn this off.